Hello guys, welcome to Infinite Stories. Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories. Let's get into the story. Alex and Victor were more than friends. They were practically brothers. Growing up in a small, bustling Nigerian town, they shared everything: dreams, adventures, and even secrets. From their early years of mischief to their ambitious plans for the future, the duo was inseparable. Alex was the more confident and outgoing of the two, often the center of attention with his infectious energy. Victor, on the other hand, was quieter, introspective, and often overshadowed by Alex's natural charisma. Despite their differences, their friendship was a beacon of trust and loyalty, a bond that seemed unbreakable. However, a shadow loomed in Victor's heart, one he kept hidden from everyone, especially Alex: a forbidden love for Dorathy, Alex's high school sweetheart and, eventually, his wife. Dorathy was a woman of unparalleled beauty and warmth. Her laughter lit up rooms, her compassion touched hearts, and her resilience inspired everyone who knew her. It was no surprise that Alex fell for her, and when they got married, it was a celebration of love and happiness. Victor, however, stood silently on the sidelines, masking his heartbreak with forced smiles and congratulatory words. Beneath the surface, envy simmered, fueled by years of watching Alex live the life he secretly yearned for. Despite his outward loyalty, Victor began to see Alex not as a friend but as a rival who had everything he ever wanted. The wedding marked a turning point, not of acceptance, but of a brewing storm in Victor's mind, one that would soon unravel the bonds of friendship and love. Months after Alex and Dorathy's wedding, Victor found himself a frequent visitor to their home. He played the role of the supportive friend, always ready to lend an ear or offer advice. Yet, every moment spent in their home was torture for him. Seeing Dorathy laugh with Alex, watching their quiet moments of affection, it was unbearable. Victor's resentment grew, and he began crafting a plan to destroy what he could not have. His opportunity came when Alex casually mentioned that Dorathy had been working late at the office. "It's strange, don't you think?" Victor said, his tone laced with feigned concern. "You know how men can be at work. Are you sure she's just working?" At first, Alex brushed off Victor's insinuations. But as the days turned into weeks, Victor's persistent comments began to gnaw at his mind. "I'm only saying this because I care about you," Victor would add, solidifying his image as the loyal friend. Slowly, Alex started noticing patterns he hadn't paid attention to before: Dorathy's late hours, her occasional distracted demeanor, and her increasing exhaustion. He interpreted these as signs of guilt rather than the results of her demanding job. What Victor had intended as seeds of doubt quickly sprouted into a forest of suspicion in Alex's mind. Trust, the foundation of Alex and Dorathy's relationship, began to crumble, and Victor's plan was only just beginning. Victor's plan began to take root as he fed Alex more lies about Dorathy's supposed infidelity. Each conversation was carefully crafted, dripping with false concern. "I know you trust her, Alex, but women can be unpredictable when they're overwhelmed," Victor whispered one evening. "You should keep an eye on her. Better safe than sorry." These words planted doubt deep in Alex's heart, and he began watching Dorathy with suspicion. Her late-night meetings, once seen as dedication to her work, now seemed to Alex like clandestine rendezvous. Dorathy, unaware of the storm brewing, continued her routine, her sole focus being on providing for their household. She noticed Alex's cold stares and his sudden bursts of anger but dismissed them as work stress. Meanwhile, Victor delighted in his growing influence over Alex, each lie he spun bringing him closer to his ultimate goal. He encouraged Alex to confront Dorathy, knowing it would create more tension. "Don't let her take you for a fool," Victor urged. "You deserve honesty." Alex, blinded by mistrust, took Victor's words to heart, setting the stage for chaos in their once happy home. Alex's demeanor toward Dorathy shifted drastically. He no longer greeted her with warmth but instead with cold accusations and sharp words. "Why do you always come home late? Who are you really spending your time with?" He spat one night, his voice trembling with anger. Dorathy was taken aback, struggling to understand the sudden hostility. She tried explaining her workload and the pressure she was under, but Alex refused to listen. To him, her words sounded rehearsed, her tears a facade. Victor's manipulation was succeeding beyond his expectations. Each argument between Alex and Dorathy was a victory for him. He maintained his role as Alex's confidant, fueling his suspicions with half-truths and fabricated stories. "I heard some guys at her office talking about her," Victor lied. "They were saying she's the kind of woman who gets attention everywhere she goes." Alex, already consumed by jealousy, clung to Victor's words like gospel. Meanwhile, Dorathy grew more isolated and confused, unable to comprehend why her once loving husband had turned into a stranger. The arguments escalated, turning their home into a battlefield. One evening, Alex's suspicions boiled over, and in a fit of rage, he accused Dorathy of infidelity without a shred of evidence. "Don't lie to me," he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "I know what you've been doing." Dorathy, hurt and confused, begged him to believe her. "Alex, I've done nothing wrong. Why won't you trust me?" she pleaded. But her words fell on deaf ears. Victor watched from the sidelines, feigning sympathy while reveling in Alex's unraveling. He knew Alex's temper was his greatest weakness, and he exploited it to the fullest. "You're doing the right thing," Victor assured him after another explosive fight. "She's making a fool of you." As the days passed, Alex's accusations became more aggressive, and Dorothy's spirit began to break. She loved Alex deeply but couldn't understand why he was intent on destroying their marriage. Tired of the constant accusations, Dorathy finally confronted Alex. "If you don't trust me, then what are we doing?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. Alex, driven by Victor's poison, responded coldly. "You're the one who needs to prove yourself," he said. His words cut deeper than any insult, leaving Dorathy devastated. She realized their marriage was hanging by a thread, and unless Alex could overcome his doubts, there was no saving it. Victor seized the moment, urging Alex to take action. "You deserve someone who respects you," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "Maybe it's time to let her go." Alex, torn between love and mistrust, began to entertain the idea of divorce. Meanwhile, Dorathy decided to focus on her own well-being, distancing herself emotionally from Alex. The once unbreakable bond between them was now a fragile thread, and Victor was ready to cut it. One fateful evening, Alex returned home in a fury, convinced by Victor that Dorathy had been seen with another man. "Who was it?" he demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Dorathy, exhausted from the constant accusations, refused to defend herself. "Believe whatever you want, Alex. I'm done explaining myself," she said, her voice steady but filled with pain. Her refusal to engage only fueled Alex's rage, and for the first time, he raised his hand against her. The moment Alex struck Dorathy, he knew he had crossed a line. She stared at him, her eyes filled with shock and betrayal, before packing her bags and leaving the house. "I can't stay with a man who doesn't respect me," she said as she walked out. Alex was left alone, his guilt overshadowed by the lies Victor had fed him. Meanwhile, Victor celebrated in silence, knowing the first phase of his plan had succeeded. With Dorathy gone, Alex turned to Victor for comfort. "You were right about her all along," he said, his voice laced with regret. Victor, however, was already planning his next move. He wasted no time in contacting Dorathy, pretending to be the supportive friend. "I'm so sorry for what Alex did to you," he said. "You deserve so much better." Dorathy, wary of Victor's intentions, kept her distance. Unbeknownst to Alex, Victor had harbored feelings for Dorathy for years. Now, with Alex out of the picture, he saw his chance to act on them. He began visiting Dorathy, showering her with compliments and sympathy. "I've always admired you, Dorathy," he confessed one evening. "If I were in Alex's place, I would have treated you like a queen." But Dorathy wasn't fooled. She saw through Victor's facade and realized he had been the root of her marital troubles all along. Victor's obsession with Dorathy reached its peak when he boldly proposed to her. "I've loved you since we were kids," he said, dropping to one knee. "Now that you're free, we can finally be together." Dorathy stared at him in disbelief. "You think I'd want to be with the man who ruined my marriage?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain. Victor's face fell as he realized his plan had backfired. Dorathy rejected Victor outright, calling him a snake and vowing never to trust him. She saw him for what he truly was, a manipulator who thrived on deception. Victor, humiliated and heartbroken, retreated, but his resentment toward Alex only grew. Meanwhile, Dorathy began rebuilding her life, determined to find happiness on her own terms. While Alex wallowed in guilt, Dorathy moved on, finding solace in a kind and understanding man named Julius. Julius was everything Alex and Victor weren't: supportive, honest, and patient. He helped Dorathy heal from the scars of her past and showed her that true love was built on trust and respect. When they eventually married, it was a celebration of resilience and new beginnings. Alex, upon hearing of Dorothy's new marriage, was consumed by regret. He confronted Victor, finally realizing the extent of his betrayal. "You were supposed to be my friend," Alex said, his voice filled with anger and hurt. "And you destroyed my life for your own selfish desires." Victor, unrepentant, retorted, "You always had everything, Alex. For once, I wanted something for myself." In the end, both men were left with nothing, while Dorathy found the happiness they had tried to take from her. Alex spiraled into a deep depression after losing Dorathy. The weight of his actions bore down on him like a crushing tide, and for the first time, he began to question his own decisions. The house felt hollow without her warmth, her laughter, and her presence. Night after night, he replayed their arguments in his mind, realizing how much he had been manipulated by Victor's lies. The memories of his outbursts haunted him, especially the night he raised his hand against her. The guilt was unbearable, and he yearned for a chance to make things right, but it was too late. Despite his remorse, Alex couldn't fully shake the anger he felt toward Victor. He realized his so-called best friend had orchestrated the downfall of his marriage, exploiting his insecurities and blind trust. Alex tried to reach out to Dorathy, but every attempt was met with silence. She had moved on, and he couldn't blame her. For the first time in his life, Alex faced the harsh reality that his impulsiveness and misplaced trust had cost him everything. Victor, too, was struggling in the aftermath of Dorothy's rejection. His entire plan had been predicated on the belief that once Dorathy was free of Alex, she would run into his arms. But her disdain for him was a bitter pill to swallow. He was left with nothing but his own bitterness, realizing he had destroyed his friendship with Alex and any chance of being with Dorathy. His manipulations had left him isolated, and he became a pariah in their social circle. Victor's obsession with Dorathy didn't fade, but it morphed into a deep resentment. He convinced himself that she had been ungrateful for his efforts to save her from Alex, failing to see the irony in his own actions. Alone and filled with anger, Victor began to drink heavily, sinking further into despair. His once carefully constructed facade of charm and loyalty crumbled, revealing the broken, jealous man beneath. Julius was a stark contrast to both Alex and Victor. He treated Dorathy with kindness and patience, allowing her to heal from the emotional wounds of her past. Unlike Alex, he never questioned her integrity or doubted her actions. Instead, he supported her ambitions and encouraged her to chase her dreams. With Julius, Dorathy felt seen and valued in ways she never had before. Their relationship blossomed into a partnership built on mutual respect. Julius understood Dorothy's hesitations and never pushed her to forget her past but rather to grow from it. His presence was a balm to her wounded soul, and for the first time in years, Dorathy felt truly happy. She realized that love didn't have to be about pain and sacrifice. It could be about trust and shared joy. Months later, Alex and Victor crossed paths at a mutual friends gathering. The tension between them was palpable, their shared history casting a heavy shadow over the room. Alex, fueled by guilt and anger, confronted Victor in front of everyone. "You destroyed my life," Alex said, his voice trembling. "You fed me lies and turned me against my wife. Some friend you are." Victor, though visibly shaken, refused to back down. "You destroyed your own life, Alex," he shot back. "You were too blind to see what was right in front of you. I didn't make you hit her. That was all you." Their heated exchange left everyone stunned. Old friends turned their backs on Victor, disgusted by his betrayal. Alex stormed out, but the confrontation only deepened his regret. Dorathy heard about the confrontation from mutual acquaintances and felt a wave of mixed emotions. While she was glad Alex had finally seen Victor for what he truly was, it didn't erase the pain he had caused her. She reflected on her past with Alex, remembering the good times as well as the bad. She realized that, despite everything, she didn't hate him, she pitied him. Dorathy had grown stronger in the months since their divorce. She had built a new life with Julius and was finally at peace. However, she couldn't help but wonder if Alex had learned anything from his mistakes. She decided to let go of the lingering resentment she held toward him, choosing instead to focus on the happiness she had found with Julius. Victor's life continued to spiral out of control. His manipulation and betrayal had alienated him from everyone who once cared about him. He lost his job due to his erratic behavior and found himself drowning in debt. The very traits that had made him so successful at deception, his cunning and charm, now worked against him as people began to see him for who he truly was. One night, drunk and bitter, Victor showed up uninvited at Dorathy and Julius's home. He begged Dorathy for a second chance, claiming he had only acted out of love. Julius intervened, firmly escorting Victor off the property. "You don't love her," Julius said. "You only wanted to possess her. Leave her alone." Victor left, humiliated and defeated, knowing he had burned every bridge in his life. Determined to right his wrongs, Alex sought therapy to confront his insecurities and anger issues. He realized how much he had let Victor's influence shape his actions and vowed never to let anyone control him like that again. Therapy helped him uncover the roots of his jealousy and mistrust, and for the first time, he felt a sense of clarity. Alex reached out to Dorathy, not to win her back but to apologize. He wrote her a heartfelt letter, admitting his mistakes and taking full responsibility for his actions. "I don't expect your forgiveness," he wrote, "but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for everything I put you through. You deserved better, and I failed you." Dorathy received Alex's letter with a mixture of surprise and relief. She had waited years for him to take responsibility for his actions, and though she had moved on, his apology brought her closure. She replied with a brief but kind letter, thanking him for his honesty and wishing him well on his journey of self-improvement. For Dorathy, forgiveness wasn't about excusing Alex's behavior but about freeing herself from the anger she had carried. With the chapter finally closed, she felt lighter and more confident in the new life she had built with Julius. Victor, now utterly alone, was forced to confront the consequences of his actions. For years, he had blamed Alex and Dorathy for his unhappiness, but he finally realized that his misery was of his own making. He had let jealousy and bitterness consume him, and it had cost him everything. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Victor sought therapy to address his issues. It was a slow and painful process, but he began to understand the depth of his selfishness and manipulation. Though redemption seemed far out of reach, Victor resolved to at least try to become a better person. Alex and Victor's friendship was beyond repair, but both men learned valuable lessons from their mistakes. Alex continued his journey of self-improvement, vowing never to repeat the errors of his past. Victor, meanwhile, embarked on a path of redemption, though he knew he might never regain the trust of those he had hurt. Dorathy and Julius thrived in their marriage, their love growing stronger with each passing day. For Dorathy, the pain of her past had transformed into a source of strength. She had faced betrayal and heartbreak but emerged victorious, proving that resilience and self-worth could overcome even the darkest of times. The chapter of Alex and Victor was closed, but Dorothy's story was just beginning. Dorothy's life with Julius was a testament to the beauty of second chances. Together, they built a foundation of trust and understanding that stood in stark contrast to her turbulent past. Dorothy had resumed her passion for community work, organizing literacy programs and women empowerment initiatives. Julius, an architect by trade, often supported her efforts, designing community centers and volunteering his time. They were a team in every sense, sharing not only love but also a commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. One day, during a community event, Dorothy realized just how much she had grown. Surrounded by smiling children and grateful families, she reflected on her journey. The heartbreak she endured with Alex and the betrayal from Victor no longer held power over her. Instead, they served as reminders of her strength and resilience. Julius often reminded her, "Your past shaped you, but it doesn't define you. You're incredible just the way you are." For the first time in her life, Dorothy felt truly at peace, confident in her future and her ability to thrive. Victor, humbled by his downfall, made small but significant strides toward becoming a better person. Therapy had forced him to confront the toxic patterns that had defined his life. He reached out to the people he had wronged, apologizing sincerely without expecting forgiveness. Most were reluctant to accept his apologies, but a few saw the sincerity in his words and encouraged his efforts to change. In a surprising twist, Victor decided to move away from his hometown. He realized that staying in the same environment would only keep him tied to his past mistakes. In a new city, Victor began volunteering at a shelter, hoping to channel his regrets into meaningful change. For the first time, he found fulfillment in helping others rather than scheming for his own gain. While the shadow of his past never fully left him, he slowly began to rebuild his life on a foundation of integrity and self-awareness. Alex's journey of redemption continued as he explored ways to make amends for his past mistakes. He threw himself into self-improvement, completing his therapy sessions and taking up activities that brought him peace, such as hiking and painting. These pursuits not only helped him cope with his guilt but also allowed him to reconnect with his inner self. One day, Alex was invited to speak at a local support group for men struggling with anger management. Nervous at first, he decided to share his story, hoping to help others avoid the same pitfalls. To his surprise, his honesty resonated with many attendees. They appreciated his vulnerability and openness about his journey to becoming a better person. It was a small step, but it gave Alex a sense of purpose and the hope that he could turn his life around. While shopping at a local market, Dorothy unexpectedly ran into Alex. It was the first time they had seen each other since exchanging letters. The encounter was awkward at first, but Dorothy decided to break the ice. "You look well, Alex," she said with a small smile. Alex nodded, visibly nervous. "I'm trying, Dorothy. I really am." Their conversation was brief but surprisingly civil. Alex apologized once more for the pain he had caused her, and Dorothy assured him she had moved on. "I hope you find happiness, Alex," she said sincerely. As she walked away, Alex felt a bittersweet sense of closure. It was clear that Dorothy was thriving, and while it stung to know he wasn't part of her happiness, he was glad she had found it. In his new city, Victor discovered a passion for mentoring troubled youth. Drawing from his own experiences, he became a counselor at a community center, helping young people navigate challenges and avoid the mistakes he had made. The work was both humbling and fulfilling, giving him a sense of purpose he had never known before. Though the scars of his past lingered, Victor found solace in the small victories of his new life. He still thought about Dorothy from time to time, but the obsession was gone. Instead, he wished her well and hoped she had found the happiness he had tried to steal from her. For the first time in years, Victor felt at peace with himself, determined to build a future that was honest and meaningful. As their second wedding anniversary approached, Julius planned a special surprise for Dorothy. He took her to a quiet, scenic location outside the city where he had secretly designed and built a small cottage, a place they could retreat to whenever they needed a break from their busy lives. "This is our sanctuary," Julius said, handing her the key. Dorothy was overwhelmed with emotion. The cottage symbolized not just Julius's love but also the life they had built together. It was a reminder that she had overcome her struggles and found a love that celebrated her worth. "You always know how to make me feel like the luckiest woman in the world," she said, embracing Julius. Inspired by his speaking engagements, Alex decided to start an organization focused on helping men address issues of anger, trust, and emotional regulation. Naming it A Better Path, the initiative quickly gained traction, attracting both local and national attention. Alex's story became a beacon of hope for others looking to change their lives. Through his work, Alex met new people who supported his vision and encouraged his growth. Among them was a woman named Angela, who shared a similar passion for helping others. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper over time, and Alex found himself falling for her. Though he was cautious about entering a new relationship, he felt ready to open his heart again. One day, while mentoring a group of teens, Victor received a surprise visitor, Alex. The two men hadn't spoken since their confrontation, and Victor was unsure of Alex's intentions. However, Alex extended a hand. "I've heard about the work you're doing here," Alex said. "It's good to see you turning things around." Their conversation was tentative but cordial. Though they couldn't rebuild their friendship, they acknowledged the progress they had each made. For Victor, Alex's recognition was a small but meaningful step toward forgiveness. It reminded him that redemption, while difficult, wasn't impossible. Dorothy's community work reached new heights when she was honored with an award for her contributions to women's empowerment. The ceremony was a joyous occasion, attended by Julius and their closest friends. As she accepted the award, Dorothy reflected on her journey, thanking those who had supported her and acknowledging the strength she had found within herself. After the ceremony, Julius raised a toast to his wife. "To Dorothy, a woman of courage, resilience, and boundless love. You inspire us all." The room erupted in applause, and Dorothy felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had turned her pain into purpose, and her life was richer for it. Years later, Alex, Victor, and Dorothy's paths rarely crossed, but their lives had each found stability and purpose. Alex and Angela married and continued their work with A Better Path. Victor became a respected figure in his community, dedicating his life to helping others. And Dorothy and Julius built a family together, raising children who embodied the love and values they cherished. Each had learned valuable lessons from their intertwined pasts. Alex and Victor's betrayals, though painful, had ultimately led Dorothy to the happiness she deserved. In the end, all three found their own versions of redemption, proving that even from the darkest moments, light can emerge, and new beginnings are always possible. That's the end of the story. What did you learn from this amazing story? Please leave a like and subscribe for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.